Okay, continuing with functions now. This is the problem we started in the previous video. We have a function called displayMessage, which is called in main here. Simply displays a message of hello world using a variable. Just to recap again, this is the function header. The void is the function type, data type. It being void means it doesn't return anything, so there's no return statement in here. And this is the body. This is the body of the function. Main is the same thing, except it has a return type of int, so it has to have a return statement. Later on again we will talk more about the return portion of this. So let's just modify this a little just to show you some things that are going on. We're going to add a while loop in here. Let's make it a for loop. Int I equal to 0, and we'll keep looping as long as I is less than 3 makes the point I++. And the idea is just to show you that a function can be called multiple times, or any function can call many functions. Alright, and show you kind of what's going on. Here I'm going to add a cout statement. Showing you that we're just starting main. Alright, put some lines between all the outputs so we can clearly see it on the output. And then we're ending main. Okay. And then here we have display message, which is simply going to display hello world. So based on this, we should see hello world displayed multiple times. So we'll compile and run that. Showing you again that it's once it hits this statement, it jumps up here, executes this, jumps back to where the call was, right? And in this case, since it's in a loop, it's going to make the loop again. So there you see the start of main, calls the function once, twice, 3 times, displaying hello world, and then ends main. Alright, so it is constantly staying here 3 times, jumping up to here to the display function 3 times, and then coming back down to this to the loop each time in between, right? Jumping back and forth between the code. Alright, that's simple enough. Let's take it one step farther. Let's add another function. Another void function, and we'll call this, just simplicity message, display message 2. Right, again, no parameters. It always has curly brackets, and I always put them in right away so I don't forget to put it in at the end. That's the typical programming error a lot of beginner programmers have. They forget to put in the closing curly brackets. So I always put them in right away, whether it's an if statement or functions. Alright, so this one's going to have a variable 2 also. We're going to call this one message also. And we'll set this equal to, we'll just say in display message 2. Right, so we know when we're in that function. Oops. Alright. And we're just going to do a cout of message. So these two actually look very much alike. Alright. Cout, doom. Oh, need a semicolon there. Alright. Yeah, let's again put some space in between these as they get displayed. Alright, so we need to call that function somewhere. I'm going to do it 2 different ways to start. I'm going to come into main and make this loop now handle multiple functions. Calling multiple functions. Alright, so it's going to call display message, come back to this spot, then call display message 2, come back to this spot, then continue with the loop for its second iteration and so forth. Alright, show you how that's working. Alright, so again it's going to call display message, come back to the spot, display message 2, and then come back and go through the loop. And you see here it did it 3 times. We started main, we called display message, which displayed hello world, and we called display message 2. There it is being inside there, the message from that function. Call hello world again, then display message 2, hello world again, display message 2 again, then main finally ended. Right, so it literally jumped as this was executing. It would come to this line of code, jump up to here, create that variable, output that message, destroy the variable, jump back to this location, then come to this one and jump up to the top of the file here, create this variable, output that message, destroy this variable, and then from this point jump back down to here and continue with the loop to the end of the loop, then back to the top to increment I and check the condition again, and then it did it all over again, over and over again. Now I created these two variables the same name just to prove a point that these two are not the same. Right, when this function gets called, this one is created, it's assigned that value, it outputs it. When the function ends, this is destroyed, it's gone out of memory. This guy has no knowledge of it. Main has no knowledge of that variable message. When this actually compiles, this actually ends up with a different name. Both of these do. Right? The compiler does its own little change to things, and it gives it its own little name. Right, so again, these are not related in any way. Alright, so there we have main calling two different functions. Let's change that even a little bit more now. Let's take this out of there. Main's still going to call display message 3 times. Now we're going to have display message call display message 2. So the results should be the same, as just how and where they're getting called from is different. So each time display message gets called, it jumps up to here to the display message 2, finishes this thing, comes back to here, display message then ends and it comes back to main for the first iteration. Right? And you see that the output's identical. Starts main, hello world, in message 2, hello world, in message 2 again, hello world, in message 2 again, and then main finally ends. So the order of execution here is slightly different in the sense that for loop starts, right, with I being 0, calls display message, jumps up to here, creates this variable, outputs that message, comes to this function call here, right? Display message has not ended yet, right? Because it's jumping from here up to here now and creating this variable message. Now both of these are in memory at the same time, so they are different, extremely different. Different memory locations, different addresses in the hardware and everything. So it creates another variable called message, assigns it that value, outputs that message. When this function now ends, because it outputted the message, it jumps back to here. Alright, and then continues the display message function. Well, in this case, it just simply ends because that is the last statement in the function. And at that point, it finally jumps back to main here, and then continues with the loop, incrementing I to 1, checking the condition, and then calling display message again, and that sequence happens again. Where that variable is created, that message is outputted, that function is called, that variable is created, that message is outputted, this message is destroyed, comes back to here, hits the curly bracket now, this message is now destroyed, and then main continues. And that continues on for several iterations. So a function can call a function, and like I said, main is a function, so it calls one function, which calls another function, which that sequence can go on for a long time, functions calling functions.